Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's live LBMA webinar. We are thrilled to welcome you today and hopefully to all the following weekly webinars moving forward. Today, we start with Ruth Crowell, Chief Executive for LBMA, with a market update on COVID-19. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them into the chat section of the webinar, and Ruth will try to answer them at the end of her speech, should there be time. Once again, thank you, and let's welcome Ruth.
Great. I'll start at the beginning because I think you guys might have missed some of that. As I was saying, I was trying to give an update 2 weeks on in terms of what's LBMA doing to support the market and what's happening 2 weeks later to report. So our primary function is acting as a communications hub. If you're experiencing challenges or expecting delays or disruptions, we'd really encourage you to get in touch so that we can help work collectively to address these and try to keep London open for precious metals business. So 2 weeks in, and I'm happy to report that London is open for business. Things are moving smoothly. We stay in constant communication with all the infrastructure providers, as well as market participants, as well as some clients. And our two main focus is looking after the benchmark auctions, as well as the vaulting. Again, 2 weeks on, both are functioning very well. The auctions have had healthy numbers of participants, as well as higher volumes going through, and quite orderly auctions. In terms of the vaults, there was an important development that there was an agreement to mutually cooperate on a best effort basis if one of the vaults were to go down. And this basically means that there's an increase of vault capacity if it were needed. I can report that all of the vaults remain open for business and can process transfers as well as metal on a daily basis, and that includes the Bank of England. So I also wanted to try to address some of the questions we've been getting from the media, as well as maybe some market clients. Is there enough metal out there? And the simple answer to this is yes. And I wanted to address a little bit some of the fallacies about global refining capacity. Part of the main points of communication is ongoing communication with our global refiners around the globe. And happy to report that refining is healthy. Yes, there have been some suspensions, there have been some disruptions, but I think you'll be reminded that we were in surplus of refining capacity prior to the crisis. So having some reductions has meant that flows have moved different ways, but that there's still active refining capacity. One thing I think came out in the news in terms of there is the suspension of the Swiss refiners. Happy to report that they're back open for business. In other major jurisdictions, some countries like China, for instance, were down, but they're now back online. Other countries have yet to be affected. And even in some of the affected countries who've taken action, such as South Africa, the RAND has been recognized as an essential business, and this is also the case for the Royal Canadian Mint, as well as the Perth Mint and other refiners around the world. So there's definitely enough refining capacity. The challenge that I'm sure for those market participants on the call is still one of logistics, and that's something I'm going to get a little bit more into as we go on. So we put out a report on Monday talking about how the gold market has been performing during the crisis, and really specifically looking at Q1 2020. I'm happy to report that volume is significantly up from Q4 last year, going from $3 trillion US to $4.32 trillion US, and that's with a price increase of 5.8%. The other aspects is certainly there's been, while there's been a price rise, there has been some volatility on the price. This has been similar to other liquid asset classes when margin positions have had to be called, and gold's been one of those go-to asset classes. So certainly by any measure, gold is maintaining its role as a safe haven asset, and that's something we expect to continue as we go forward. But I also wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about the challenges that are out there. As I mentioned previously, logistics is something I think that's affecting everyone, be it upstream and downstream. Gold normally travels by passenger airlines in the cargo hold. As you know, many passenger airlines have suspended flights or suspended business altogether. And what this has meant is that there's less flights for gold to travel on. And gold isn't the only thing that flies by passenger airline in terms of cargo. So there's more competition for less flights. A positive and significant development since we first put out briefings 2 weeks ago is that charter flights have now been approved by insurance in terms of shipping gold. Yes, there is always the ability to charter a flight, but would the insurance cover the shipment of that material? Now that yes is the answer to that question, that's one thing addressed, but the ongoing challenge is the cost of those flights. This was something that was already expensive prior to the crisis, and it's something that certainly has jumped as, again, we're not the only industry that's been affected by this logistics challenge. So that's one I would really encourage you to work with your metals partners as well as precious metals carriers who can help you navigate some of those challenges. The other challenge, which is certainly taken up a lot of media space as well as calls that we've received, is the New York-London price dislocation. And this is primarily due to logistics disruption above. Certainly a concern or a rumor belief that there wouldn't be that the short positions wouldn't be delivering metal into New York to cover contracts. We have reached out to the CME and have put out some joint statements. CME is certainly on the list of market infrastructure providers and participants that we're in close communication with, and happy to report that stocks are very healthy. Certainly for London, we have record stocks, and for the CME, they're nearing record stocks. The other important development there has been the launch of their new 400-ounce bar contract. We have offered our assistance as well as our good delivery list and all the vaulting expertise, as well as secure websites and training behind the scenes to help New York depositories get ready for processing 400-ounce bars if they're not used to already, which many of them are. So there's that aspect. And I think with the new contract, I would really encourage participants to speak to the CME about it, give them your feedback, and that's something we're trying to assist with in terms of inviting the CME to present to various groups, one of which is happening later today. So again, get in contact if you have questions, but also feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks.
So I think in terms of messages that we'd like to offer, I wanted to try to switch. Hi guys. I just wanted to come to camera and say the main message that we're trying to get out to market is one of support. This is an unprecedented time for the industry, but for the world. And I think my personal message would please be to stay safe. If we can help, please don't hesitate to reach out. But thinking of all of you and your families during this unprecedented time. Thanks.
Thank you, Ruth. Just to remind everyone, please use the chat function to pose any questions that you may have or may have had before the update, if you haven't already, and Ruth will start to answer them.
I think sometimes, Taylor, on such a big group call, it can be intimidating to ask questions. But please continue to consider LBMA a help desk if we can assist. Just reach out to us. I know there'll be contact details coming through after this call to help you do so.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be in touch with you. We'll send out an email particularly including access to the Members Gold Line, please do not hesitate to contact us. Once again, thank you for your time, and thank you, Ruth. On behalf of everyone at the LBMA, we hope you stay safe, and we also hope that you have a lovely long weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.